Hello, hello. My name is Tilly, and today I will be bringing you a cEDH deck tech for my new favorite pet deck, Yisan the Wanderer Bard. Mono green cEDH is not alive and well in the year 2025. However, if you're looking for a fun new toolbox commander to play, I can't recommend Yisan highly enough. Those who have been in this format for a long time will know Yisan very well. He's kind of an OG staple from many, many years ago, and it's just outclassed by some of the stronger toolbox decks of today's metagame. Probably Magda is the best example of that. However, sometimes you get tired of playing the same old shit and you want something new. And for me, in the past couple weeks, that's been Yisan. So I've got it divided up into spells by type and creatures, and we're going to kind of go through it, and then I'd like to walk you through the winning lines. The reason I'm making this video is because when I was setting out to build Yisan, there's a great Discord that I will link in the description of this video, but for someone like me, I learn best visually and consume a lot of content on YouTube, and I couldn't find anything from, the last year that was a decent deck tech guide. So I decided I would make one, and let's talk about Yisan. So Yisan is 2 and a green for a legendary human rogue bard. We can tap him for 2 and a green and put a verse counter on Yisan, and then we go get to tutor our deck for any creature with a CMC equal to the number of verse counters on him. So out of the box, he is a tutor in the command zone, and we get to go get things that advance our own game plan, as well as things that kind of stop other people from trying to do their game plan. Yisan in the past, I've heard, has been recommended as a new players to cEDH that want to kind of dip their toes in. While I would agree with that from a price point perspective, I would say that knowledge of the meta is super key to playing the step optimally, because there are a lot of situations I've gotten myself into where I will attempt to only focus on advancing my own board state, and then Yisan just does not go as fast as some of these other decks, and so in that way you kind of can handicap yourself by only advancing your game plan, when in reality you either want to do that or want to play reactively to try to shut down other people's game plans long enough for you to get your job done. Yisan does not win quick. We're not getting a turn 1 Yisan very often. Turn 2, turn 2 is usually where we like to live, and then from there you are capped on the amount of times that you can put a verse counter on him, and so you're really wanting to stall games out as best you can for as long as you can, so that you can achieve infinite mana and ultimately win the game through a number of combos that we'll go over. So that's Yisan. Let's first start off with artifacts. We don't run very many, but we do run some stacks. Now, disclaimer, this is my own list. The sideboard for this list that I have is larger than I'd care to admit. I've been tinkering a lot. There's lots of different ways to build Yisan. This is just my way of building him, and this list will probably be different in a week, but for now, this is what we're working with. So, Chalice of the Void. Chalice on 0 is great. Chalice on 1 is great. Chalice on 2 is great. Just stops a lot of people from doing what they're trying to do. We have a Trinisphere. We don't really care about playing spells in Yisan most of the time. We would just like to be activating Yisan, and so Trinisphere does that really well for us. Null Rod. Null Rod is another great effect. Again, because we are running so few artifacts, if we can get an early Null Rod down and effectively kind of slow down the table from the artifacts that they're using, then we get to advance our own board state in the direction that we want to go, instead of in the direction that we go to stop other people. Chrome Mox, kind of obligatory. cEDH include. I've seen some decks run no Chrome Mox, no Mox Diamond. I agree with the no Mox Diamond. I don't know about the Chrome Mox, because there are some spells in here we're just fine ditching to Chrome Mox. Soul Ring, of course, and the One Ring. One Ring is one that you could or could go without. I personally feel like if you're playing cEDH, then most likely you are running One Ring. In this deck, it's hard to draw cards. We really don't draw that many cards. We're just mostly cheating things into play. So having the option to play One Ring, should we get it, is fantastic. If there's anything to cut out of here, I could totally see cutting the One Ring in favor of some other things. So, with artifacts out of the way, I think it makes the most sense next to go to creatures, as we are a creature deck, and this is the bread and butter of what we want to be doing. So, there are a number of one-drops that we have that are going to either advance our board state, stop other people from doing what they want to do, and allow us to combo off. So, we have Mana Dorks, Inner Elves, Llanowar Elves, Finhorn Elves, Elvish Mystic. A lot of the times you will want to be getting these out on turn 1 so that you can have a turn 2 Yisan. Hardly are you ever going to verse for these, as we have a lot better targets for our verse 1, but you have to have the Elves. We have Arbor Elf, lets us untap target forest. We'll get into why that is relevant later, but obviously making 2 mana off a singular forest is great. Birds of Paradise, although we don't need mana fixing in this deck, Birds of Paradise is crucial to one of our instant speed wins, and we will go into that later, but another dork is fantastic. Sylvan Safekeeper. This is a great verse 1 target, especially should you find yourself with enough lands. We run 31 lands in this deck, and so we usually have the lands to sacrifice, but being able to sacrifice a land to give our Yisan Shroud just kind of helps him in a Bowmaster's meta, and a, hey, what's that green guy doing? We should just get rid of him. This deck is entirely dependent, not entirely, but very dependent on Yisan being out and alive, so we want the ability to protect him when we can. One thing to note with Sylvan Safekeeper is that when you give Yisan Shroud and you want to do things with Quirion Ranger, you will not be able to target Yisan with Quirion Ranger's ability because he'll be gone. So that's just something to note. Quirion Ranger, return a forest you control to its owner's hand, untap target creature. This is one of our 2 or 3 untappers that we have in the deck. Essentially, if you have enough mana, you can activate Yisan, activate Quirion Ranger to return a forest to your hand, untap Yisan, and then get another verse counter and go again. The interesting thing about doing this is, say we have Yisan on 1. We have the mana, we tap Yisan, add a verse counter, and then we return the forest, untap Yisan, and we go again. When the abilities resolve, it's going to check how many verse counters are on Yisan. So instead of getting 2 and 3, you're going to be able to go get 2 3-drops instead of a 2-drop and a 3-drop. So some tech that happens that is absolutely relevant in this deck. Delighted Halfling, just another great dork. Uncounterable Yisan, uncounterable Dosen. We have an answer to the One Ring in Haywire Might. We can pay a green, sacrifice it, exile target non-creature artifact or non-creature enchantment. Exiling the One Ring is one of the few ways to get around it. This is also just a great piece to slam when you're playing against Food Chain, against Breach, against, even blowing up Rhystic Studies in this current kind of grindy meta that we have is a great option for you. We have Magus of the Candelabra, pay X, untap X lands. Once we get to talking about Ashaya, this will make a lot more sense, but we get to a point where all of our creatures are lands, and so we can use its ability to tap, untap, generate infinite mana. Heap Doll. Heap Doll says sacrifice Heap Doll, exile target creature, target card from a graveyard. So exiling a Savine's Reclamation target. There's a lot of great uses. This is just more graveyard hate. We have Uvenwald Tracker. This is a fight on a stick. Pay 1 and a green and tap it. Target creature you control fights another target creature. This deck is absolutely hindered, crippled, thrown to the ground by opposition agent. We can't search for, we can't verse, we can't do much against an oppo, so having a couple different fights that we have in the deck are crucial. Boreal Druid. Tap it for 1 generic to your mana pool. Honestly, it's just an elf. We run Boreal Druid to kind of buff up our Priest of Titania. If there's any dorks to cut, it could be this one, but you know, in terms of 1-drops, I see Boreal Druid in almost every single list, so here it sits in mine. Last but not least, maybe the MVP of our verse ones, Allosaurius Shepherd. Green spells you control cannot be countered. That rules. I've not ever had to pump mana into his ability. He's mostly there to just give us uncounterable spells, and that rocks. So a lot of the times your first verse is going to be for Quirion Ranger or Sylvan Safekeeper. Allosaurius Shepherd is not a bad target either. All of these other ones, like I said, you know, this is a toolbox deck. It's very situational. It's very reactive. So each verse will come with its upsides and downsides. We're going to move on to our 2 costs next. And who doesn't love a Null Rod on a body? Null Rod on a stick. We've got Collector Oof. Just some more stacks, slowing down the game so that we can progress our own. Fauna Shaman. This is a survival of the fittest on a stick. Pay a green, discard a creature card, search your library for a creature card, put it into your hand. Doesn't get any better than that. Scrib Ranger, another one of our rangers, gives us that bounce of forest to our hand to untap target creature. When we get to a point where we have a Shia out and everything is a creature, then we can do what's referred to as the Ranger Shuffle, where we are tapping them to their own ability, returning them to our hand, playing them, tapping them to their own ability, returning to our hand. You can generate infinite mana that way. Scrib Ranger, gotta have it. We have Cankerbloom next. Cankerbloom is interesting as it is more artifact and enchantment hate. However, you can also pay 1 to sack it and proliferate, which is interesting. If you have a Yisan on 3 and you're really ready to pop off on an instep, you can sack Cankerbloom to proliferate, or say you're on 2, proliferate, go to 3, and then when you tap him, he's on 4, and you can go find, you know, Temur Sabertooth and Argothian Elder or whatever you need. Just the option to have proliferate on there is really great. Phyrexian Revoker. Buddy, how many times have I been sad to have had to verse for this, but happy that I have the ability to stop someone else's win. Phyrexian Revoker can name Cannon, Najila, Tavish, you can name Food Chain, you know, anything with an activated ability, and it is a great hate piece to sit out and kind of stop what people are doing. I have had several games where just this one piece has stalled out the games long enough that I can go for a win on my turn. We have one of our big mana dorks, Priest of Titania. With all of our elves in the deck, this can tap for a lot. We can get to a board state where we have enough elves that this can tap for enough for us to do the Ranger Shuffle I was talking about, tapping and untapping Priest of Titania to generate infinite mana. Great card. Unfortunately, one but, very susceptible to OBM, Orcish Bowmasters, but hopefully we're getting ourselves to a board state where we can give things Shroud or, you know, try to find some way to protect them. Not an end-all be-all, but a great include nonetheless. Destiny Spinner. Boy howdy does this card rock. For 2, we get creature and enchantments. Spells we control can't be countered, but interestingly, we have 3 and a green. Target land you control becomes an XX elemental creature with trample and haste. Trample and haste, the trample's irrelevant, but the haste is what we care about. when we get Ashaya, Soul of the Wild out, everything becomes a land. And so if we've achieved infinite mana, then we can dump our mana into this ability to give everything haste, so that when we replay a dork, a whatever, none of it is summoning, so it all has haste, and it can all continue to generate mana and to progress our game plan. We've got Soulless Jailer, more graveyard hate. Players can't cast non-creature spells from graveyards or exile. Kind of stops an Underworld Breach. Just more permanent cards and graveyards can't enter the battlefield. Just great graveyard hate. Duskwasp Recruiter. This would be one of our infinite mana outlets. For 2 and a green, you can look at the top 3 cards of your library, put a creature card, put the rest on the bottom. This, with infinite mana, allows us to go through our entire deck, and if we have infinite mana and Allosaurus Shepherd out, then we can just draw all of our creatures, cast them all, and hopefully we're at a point there where we can swing out or go through some of our other loops. Last but not least, Marvin. Marvin is dope. Marvin has all activated abilities of creatures you control that don't have the same name as Marvin. This is a second Yisan. A lot of the times what I've found is that when you are playing Yisan and you're playing reactively, you will say you've got a turn 2 Yisan, it comes back around, you're on turn 3. I go land pass, because anything that you're searching for, unless it's a stacks piece or something relevant like on your turn, you can just react to on another player's turn. So you say you find yourself on 1 and you've got an Aquarian Ranger. If you go to 2 and you had to go get like a Phyrexian Revoker instead of a Priest of Titania or something that advances your board state a little more and stopping other players, Marvin is a great way to say, hey, let's have my Yisan back to 1, and I'd like to go back up my own chain so that I can advance my game plan instead of trying to halt others' game plans. So those are our 2-drops. On to our 3-drops. We have one last untapper in Hyrax Tower Scout. When it ETBs, untap a creature. On verse 3, this is great because if you have enough mana, you can go get Hyrax Tower Scout, immediately untap Yisan, and then go for verse 4. We have Endurance. This is a fantastic card for our own graveyard recursion, as well as stopping Thoracle wins. A Thoracle Demonic Consultation, let the Demonic Consultation resolve. Thassa's Oracle trigger in response, either verse up Yisan to get Endurance onto the field, or flash it out from your hand by evoking it. Just fantastic auto-include in almost all green decks. Gets a lot of hate. I think Endurance is fantastic. We have Eternal Witness, just some more recursion. Ewit is part of some of our lines with Ewit and Endurance, getting those cards back and being able to cast some of our spells that we need from our graveyard, kind of looping back through our deck. Manglehorn, another stacks piece for 3. Blow up an artifact, and then artifacts ETB tapped. If anybody's got a tithe out, your treasures are entering tapped. Manglehorn's a great piece. Circle of Dreams Druid is one that is another one that you're just sad that it does have a 1-but. However, it is Gaia's Cradle on a stick. It's fantastic. Hopefully by verse 3 you've got a couple creatures out already and you're tapping for 3 or 4. This is another one of our big mana dorks where when we're doing a Ranger Shuffle can produce us infinite mana. Alright, here's one that gets me in trouble. Dosen of the Falling Leaf. This is our defense grid, not defense grid, Grand Abolisher in green. Players can only cast spells during their own turns. I highly recommend never playing this spell, versing for this spell, unless you know that you can go for the win on your turn. I've made the mistake before of trying to get there, mathing wrong, and then everybody else is shut out during all of, for a whole orbit, and it just offers up a free win to others if it's not played properly. On to the 4-drops, we have Yeva, Nature's Herald. You can cast green creature spells as though you have flash, and she has flash herself. Great card, just a good 4 target. There's a lot of creatures that we would like to cast for flash in, and Yeva allows us to do so. Honestly, I don't verse for Yeva a lot because we've got some pretty bomb for verse creatures, but this is just a good one to have. Voltaic Construct is an interesting one. With Voltaic Construct and Marvin, we can untap target artifact creature. Now notice this does not have a tap or anything like that, so we can pay infinitely to untap Marvin and just tap Marvin and verse up to a trillion. You can. It's really these two cards is why Voltaic Construct is in there. We have Slippery Bogbonder. Now, Slippery Bogbonder is a weird one, but it is really cool too. It has flash and hexproof. When it ETBs, put a hexproof counter on target creature, then move any number of counters from among those creatures onto that creature. So a lot of the times, like I was saying before, if you're playing Yisan and you're having to reactively play to stop other people from winning, then you find yourself going up the chain, 2, 3, 4. The options for progressing your game as you go further up the chain kind of get less and less. You really want to be able to go back down the chain or start the chain again, and you will get to that board state eventually, but it doesn't happen as quickly as some of the other decks in the meta do. So Bogbonder allows us to remove counters off of Yisan, put them onto something else, give our, Seedborn Muse hexproof. There's a lot of things that you can do good with the hexproof counter. But of note, when you put the hexproof counter on target creature, you're moving any number of counters from among creatures you control onto that creature. So you can't move counters from a creature onto Yisan as though they were verse counters. He's the only one in the deck that gets verse counters. So when you're removing them, they're not +1/+1 counters, they're just verse counters. Temur Sabertooth, fantastic card. Pay 2, return target creature you control to its owner's hand. Once we achieve infinite mana, then we're just bouncing over and over again with Temur Sabertooth. This is just helping us once we get to infinite mana. And finally, one of my favorites, this is Argothian Elder. Untap 2 target forests. So it makes the most sense to talk about our 5-drops next with this card. The beautiful, the lovely Seedborn Muse. Just a fantastic verse 5 target. A lot of the times what you're doing on verse 3, say we go to an end step and we have an untapper, or not, just say we're on verse 3 on an end step. Tap, activate Yisan, go find a 4-drop. Our 4-drop is Argothian Elder. He goes into play. Untap, upkeep, draw a card. Immediately, we tap Yisan, go find a Shaya. Now, all of our creatures are lands, so you can tap Argothian Elder and anything else to its own ability to untap 2 target lands. You can do this over and over and over again, and you've got infinite mana on a stick and just this guy right here. So those are 4-drops. Let's talk about the 5ers. Ashaya is so crucial to this deck. It's insane, and honestly, it feels real bad when Ashaya is gone. I've had games where Ashaya gets exiled and you're like, oh my god, how am I going to get out of this? Ashaya making everything lands enables your Quirion Rangers to bounce each other. It just enables so many combos in this deck. It is absolutely crucial. Getting to 5 as quickly as we possibly can is phenomenal. So Ashaya, Seedborn, Seedborn just makes sense. You're able to verse sometimes multiple times on other players' turns every time you untap. Gotta have it. And then we have 3 cards left. We have 2 targets for verse 6. One of them is Kogla. Kogla is great because when it ETBs, it fights another creature. It's got 7 power, baby, so we're smacking down pretty much anything on the board. Atraxa can go bye-bye. You can even, like with Atraxa obviously would trade with it, but you can return target human you control to give Kogla indestructible. So you get kind of 2-for-1 here. You can give Kogla indestructible and fight something real big, and then return Yisan to your hand for 2, resetting Yisan's counters and replaying him, if you have the mana. Kogla is fantastic. And then last but not least, on 6 we have Woodland Bellower. When it enters, you can search your library for a non-legendary creature, CMC 3 or less, put it into the battlefield. So Woodland Bellower is sick because if you find yourself on 6 verses and you have missed an Alazoria Shepherd, a Quirion Ranger, any of the pieces on down the chain that you're now, it's so far up the chain that you can't go back because of whatever board set you find yourself in, Woodland Bellower is your answer there. Last but not least, questionable include. I love the idea of Craterhoof Behemoth being a land, being able to generate infinite mana, cast Craterhoof over and over and over and over and over and over again, and give everything plus a billion, plus a billion. If there's any card to cut out of the creatures, this is a candidate for it, but the Timmy and me likes stomps, and so stomps we go. Alright, now that we've talked about all of the creatures, let's talk about our instance. We only have a handful of instants. Beast Within. Beast Within is great because it destroys target permanent. We have some loops where we achieve infinite mana where we can destroy everyone's permanents, give them all 3/3 beast tokens for all their, lands, artifacts, enchantments, everything. We can turn into a 3/3 beast, and then mow them over with an infinitely large Craterhoof or Finale. Just great, destroy target permanent. Summoner's Pact, gotta have it. We can easily pay 2 green in this deck and search up any answer that we need. Legolas's Quick Reflexes is a really great card to untap Yisan and protect him. When the creature gets tapped afterwards, it deals damage equal to its power to up to 1 target creature. You could find yourself in a world where you are casting this and trying to fight something else like an Oppo, but a lot of the times this is just a way to say, hey, leave my boy Yisan alone. Next we have Archdruid's Charm. Archdruid's Charm is most of the time doing mode 2 or 3, searching your library for a creature or land, putting it into the battlefield if it's a land, otherwise put it in your hand. This is 3 mana, go get Gaia's Cradle on 1, a creature to your hand for 3 is not awful. The fight spell is great. Exile target artifact or enchantment. Honestly, it's just versatile enough in green that it's really nice to have. Benefactor's Drought is one that I'm still not really sure about. For 2, untap all creatures until end of turn. Whenever a creature an opponent controls blocks, draw a card. You're not ever really drawing a card, but I mean, you're not really ever using it for the block effect, but the untapping all creatures and be able to, sometimes 2, 3, like triple verse Yisan is an interesting option. I don't know that this one sticks around, but I think it's I think it's neat. Veil of Summer. Veil of Summer is just if we find ourselves in a situation where we're getting targeted by Yisan, give ourselves protection, draw a card. You and permanents you control gaining hexproof from black and blue is very crucial as well. A lot of people forget that spells you control can't be countered this turn. You and permanents you control gain hexproof from blue and black. Very powerful card in Veil of Summer. Crop Rot, no brainer. Go get a Gaia's Cradle, tap for a billion with all of your creatures out. Quarter Calling, we can easily pay the convoke cost on Quarter Calling because we will usually have a lot of creatures out. Green is a little tough. I think this is one of our kind of poorer tutors, but the convoke is what makes it kind of great. And then just straight into the battlefield, can't complain. Infectious Spite. Really neat combo with Infectious Spite. They have dubbed the Bird Flu combo. So Infectious Bite reads, target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature you don't control. Each opponent gets a poison counter. We find ourselves in a situation with infinite mana where we are looping Endurance, Eternal Witness, all of those things, and just refueling our library to go through over and over. When you cast Infectious Bite targeting Birds of Paradise and any other creature, everybody's going to get a poison counter. Well, when you're looping through your deck, it's going to do 0, so it's not killing the creature, but it's going to do 0 over and over again to whatever target you specify, and then each time it does so, everybody gets a poison counter. This way, we get around one ring protection, because we aren't beating face, we aren't doing anything, people are dying to poison counters. Lovely, lovely tech. It's really sick. One of the few games that I've won with this deck, I've won with that combo. Worldly Tutor, not that we need it, but it's there if we want it, and just great to have another 1 mana tutor. Bouncer's Beatdown. This is hate for opposition agent. This spell costs 2 less if it targets a black permanent. So for 1 green, you can deal damage equal to its power to creature or planeswalker. If that creature or planeswalker would die, exile it instead. Get out of here, Oppo. Force of Vigor. This is an auto-include in most green decks. It's a great 2-for-1. A lot of the times you aren't paying the cost, you're exiling one of your own cards instead, but we have enough cards that we are okay with throwing away, that throwing it away to Force of Vigor doesn't seem so bad to destroy 2 Ristics, 2, an Underworld Breach, a Food Chain, or whatever. Great card in Force of Vigor. And then lastly, we have Tailswipe. It is just another fight. So those are the instants. Let's do the sorceries quickly. Sylvan Scrying is a go find your Gaia's Cradle. Bridgeworks Battles, this is a great fight spell, MDFC. Otherwise it's Bolt Land, but give your creature 2/2, fight another creature, fantastic. Natural Order, for 4 mana we can go get something that we missed on a verse chain, or we can kind of skip our verse chain for an extra mana, but at the cost of sacrificing a green creature. We have plenty of creatures that we're okay to sacrifice in this deck, and that we can get back through our infinite mana loops later on. So really, really cool sorcery here. Green Suns Zenith, almost an auto include in every green creature deck in my opinion. One of the cool things, if you see Green Suns in your opening hand and you don't have a whole lot of mana or a whole lot of ramp going on, one neat thing that you can do is Green Sun for 0. So for 1 green, go get yourself a Dryad Arbor and put Dryad Arbor into play. It will be summoning 6, so you can't immediately tap it because it is a land creature, but the fact that you get to shuffle Green Suns in afterward is phenomenal. And then last but not least, Finale of Devastation. Finale is cool and is one way that you can go about just beating face, is achieving infinite mana and then having Finale of Devastation in hand, giving everything plus a billion, and swinging out. A lot of the times, if we've achieved that state already where we've got that much mana, we have all of our creatures in play already, and we're going to be able to just swing out and win the game with a Finale. So those are our sorceries. We do have Invasion of Ikoria. Again, just another tutor, put a creature straight into play for double green. You're hardly ever getting the siege side of this thing, but Invasion, just another great tutor to the battlefield. Lastly, we have Enchantments. We'll talk about the strongest one first. It's Survival of the Fittest. For 1 green after it hits the field, discard a creature card, search your library for a creature card, put it in your hand, then shuffle. This card better than this card. It's hard to remove. It's a great way to tutor what you need to get an answer for anything. It's just survival is fantastic. Um, we have Wild Growth and Utopia Sprawl. Both of these are just trying to ramp us a little more in this deck that doesn't need a whole heck of a lot of it, but being able to turn one Utopia Sprawl, turn one Wild Growth, just tapping our forest for an additional mana, pretty good. Last one I have that is kind of a pet card, kind of a flex slot for me is Burgeoning. Whenever an opponent plays a land, you can play a land. It's really funny to, play a land mana dork pass and then for the whole first orbit go, okay, burgeoning trigger, okay, burgeoning trigger, okay, burgeoning trigger, and then you come back to your turn and turn 2, you have 4 mana available to you, or 5 with a dork or something like that. Burgeoning is kind of a magic Christmas land card, honestly, and is something that, probably comes out at some point, but I love the flavor on it, especially in a green deck. Last but not least, we have our lands, so we will quickly talk about the basics. I'm running 11 snow-covered forests and 4 regular forests. The snow-covered forests are really only relevant in one of our utility lands that we're going to talk about, but then we also have Dryad Arbor, and Dryad Arbor is a land. It's affected by summoning sickness, but it is technically a land. It's one of those weird ones. So in terms of non-basic lands, we got Ancient Tomb, gotta have it. Gemstone Caverns, turn zero mana is pretty sick. Homeward Path, because our deck is so commander centric, if we get Gilded Drake, if we get whatever the MH3 one is, MH3 Drake, you guys know the one I'm talking about. It taps for energy, or it generates energy. Dude, that's gonna drive me nuts. Volatile Storm Drake. If you get Volatile Storm Drake, Homeward Path is a great card to have, as it just gets our creature back. Urza's Cave, we can sack Urza's Cave, search our library for a land. This is great to do on an instep to go grab a Gaia's Cradle because it does enter tapped. Or, if we have an untapper, sacking it, going to get a Cradle, untapping the Cradle with, say, Arbor Elf or something like that, and then tapping for a whole bunch with Cradle. Makes sense. Huh. Speaking of which, Cradle, big creature deck, must have, taps for a bunch of mana, untapping it, tapping it again for a bunch of mana. That's what green wants to do, baby. Yavimaya is a really cool one because with our Ashaya combos and making, bouncing forests to our hand, Yavimaya actually makes Gaia's Cradle a forest, so we can bounce it, play it again, tap it for a bunch. Yavimaya auto-include. Plaza of Heroes is a really interesting one. You can add a mana of any color to cast legendary spells, but more importantly, the Exile Plaza of Heroes, target legendary creature gains hexproof and indestructible. A lot of our utility lands want to do exactly that. We just want to protect our Yisan. So, Plaza of Heroes. Ominous Cemetery for 5, we can exile it and target creature's owner shuffles it into their library. So this targeting an opposition agent says, hey, you owner, shuffle this piece of shit into your library. So another great piece of hate for Oppo. Talon Gates of Madara. Talon Gates often is fetched by, it's super niche scenario, but fetch it with a crop rotation or with Urza's Cave or any of the ones that we've talked about that can go find another land. When it enters, it phases out up to 1 target creature, phasing out your Yisan as in response to being Orcish Bowmaster, targeted removal, anything like that. Talon Gates is really good. And then to be able to put Talon Gates into your hand from the battlefield is also super dope because you can just kind of recur that effect. So we have Castle Garenbrig. Castle Garenbrig is a really cool one because for 2 and 2 green, we can add 6 green. So for 2 and 2 green, we can add 6 green. Spend this mana only to cast creature spells or activate abilities of creatures. There's 2 Yisan taps for 4 mana instead of 6. So really, really good. Mouth of Ronan, or Redhorn Pass. This is the only card in the deck, to my knowledge, that gives a crap about snowlands, but sack it for 4 and a snowland. Sack it, deals 4 damage to target creature. Get out of here, Oppo. Cavern of Souls, obvious inclusion. Uncounterable Yisan. Usually, I mean, not usually, always we are naming human, because with that we have an uncounterable Yisan. Not that Slippery Bogbender is getting countered a lot, but we have an uncounterable Bogbender. We have an uncounterable Dose into the Falling Leaf, and I think that is one of the more important ones. We are almost there, guys. We have Beseiju, who endures. Best green land in the game, bar none. Being able to play it as a land or destroy. And channel is just so hard to interact with that a lot of the times there's nothing your opponents can do about it. Last but not least, Nykthos, Shrine to Nyx. We have a ton of green devotion in our deck. Sometimes 3, I think 3 is the most on a singular card, but we are going to have a ton of devotion to green, and so Nykthos just makes sense in this deck. In the next section, I'm going to set up a couple of different board states and try to explain some of the ways that we win. Some of the ones I've talked about already, but otherwise, I will see you guys in just a sec. Alrighty, on to the combo section. This deck revolves largely around Ashaya, Soul of the Wild, making all of our creatures forests. This board state I have is just to represent not something that you may or may not have at any point during the game, but just kind of to explain how some of the combos work. So with Ashaya in play, we have everything being a land. The easiest one for me to wrap my head around when I first started was Argothian Elder. So Argothian Elder reads, tap, untap 2 target lands. You tap your Elder to activate its ability targeting itself, and let's say a Graia's Cradle or a Mana Dork, and then resolve the ability untapping 2 lands, either your Graia's Cradle or your Mana Dork. Do that over and over. There's your infinite mana, bud. Go about your business from there. Activate Yisan, go up your verse chain, sink it into a Finale of Devastation. You got multiple paths to victory once you have infinite mana. Next, we have the Ranger Shuffle. So with either of our Rangers out, we can activate the Ranger's ability. Because it's a forest, we can activate the Ranger's ability on itself to untap target creature. So let's tap our Priest of Titania for all of our elves. We're going to net 5 mana here total. Then we're going to return the Ranger to our hand because it's a forest to activate its ability and untap Priest of Titania. Let's play it again because we have the mana for it. Let's tap our Priest for mana. Let's return Quirion Ranger. Let's untap Priest. Let's generate infinite mana. There we go. Either Ranger will do. In that same vein, we also have a combo in Hyrax Tower Scout and Temur Sabertooth. While Hyrax Tower Scout does not have that untap ability, Temur Sabertooth is going to allow us with infinite mana after we've generated it to untap, to return Hyrax to your hand for 2 green. So every time Hyrax enters, we can untap, whether that be a big Mana Dork or Yisan. There's infinite untaps and infinite casts with Hyrax Tower Scout. Temur Sabertooth is going to be great to returning, whatever you need to your hand. There is the Marvin lines that we've talked about already. Marvin and Voltaic Construct, being able to sink some of our infinite mana into Voltaic Construct to untap Marvin is another great way to go up your verse chain, get whatever else you need. We talked about the Destiny Spinner lines. Once Destiny Spinner out, we can even start bouncing these Mana Dorks because they're forests with the Quirion Ranger's abilities. With either of the Rangers out, we can start bouncing dorks, and then once we achieve an infinite mana state, give all of those dorks haste again. Should we find ourselves in a position where we're getting interacted with or anything like that, it can be a great option. Magus the Candelabra is another one where we're untapping X lands. If it is a land, then we can pay X to untap it. We can untap some other things to untap it, especially if our tapper is making, more mana than just one, if it's mana positive. So Circle of Dreams Druid tapping for 5, say, pay uh, pay 2, untap 2 target lands, targeting Magus and this. So we've netted 3 there. Just another infinite mana outlet, or not an outlet, but another infinite mana generator. We have the Duskwatch Recruiter, so our outlet to go and find all our creatures, cast all of our creatures. With Endurance, Eternal Witness, Beast Within, Infectious Bite, and Birds of Paradise, we have so much fun. So, like I explained before, the Bird Flu combo revolves around these 2 cards. Once you cast Infectious Bite, obviously it goes to your graveyard. We have Endurance to loop our graveyard back into our library, syncing all of that into Duskwatch Recruiter, and then we can cast the Ewit to get Endurance back and just keep going until everybody is poisoned out. This is one of the few ways that we can, kind of not win at instant speed, but we can certainly go, if we find ourselves in a board state where we are like this set up ready to go on someone else's turn, then we can, at flash speed get this going as long as the bird is out. As well, at that point, if you've already got all your creatures out, you've pretty much won the game already. The other one being the Beast Within loop, same concept. Instead of Infectious Bite, we're replacing that with Beast Within, and we're just destroying all of our opponent's permanents. That is pretty much it for all of the lines that I have in my deck. I'm not sure that we've not talked about any yet. Lastly, just Crater Hoofing as a forest, returning it to your hand, Crater Hoofing over and over and over again, making them huge, finale for a billion. Just a lot of fun stuff that you get to do in green that you don't get to see in a lot of other decks. Again, I hope that you enjoyed this cEDH deck tech for Yisan the Wanderer Bard. If I'm missing any combos, I know that I am. Shoot me a comment. If you've got a deck list, I'll be posting mine. Post yours. Let me know what you think about Mono Green in the year of our Lord 2025. Until next time, thanks for watching and take care.